Hey everybody, welcome to another video review. So this one I'm going to be doing another Walt Disney Classics Collection review. It's a very rare piece, and I may be wrong, but I don't think there's any other YouTube review of this out there. There's a collection shop that has like a lot of Walt Disney Classics collection pieces, but it's more for, I think, business purposes. They just show like a little 360 of the piece and that's it. And they're very old. So this is real time, obviously 2022. This is Night on Bald Mountain, and it depicts the character Chernabog from the original Disney classic Fantasia. So Night on Bald Mountain, this is a super difficult piece to get. And let's go through a little bit about the history. So number one, of course, this is fine porcelain. If you listen carefully, you can hear that that's the sound that porcelain makes. It's sort of difficult to actually showcase. This is well over 20 years old. This was an exclusive sold at a Disneyana convention. I do forget the exact date. Here, I don't want to break this. I'm going to get a real good grip on this guy from right here. So this is, again, you can see the bottom. This is all fine art porcelain. You can see the actual seal. You can see that this is a official Disneyana convention. This should tell you it's a 19, well, anyways, you'll be able to hopefully tell. I think it's 1997. So it gives you the seal Disneyana convention, 1997, I believe. And then up here, Night on Bald Mountain, it's out of 1500. This is number 1201, Fantasia limited edition. So I'm going to gently put it back right here. So that means that this could only be purchased at that convention, okay? You had to go there to get it. And if you look at it, all of this is in porcelain, and it's just a stunning and ambitious piece. If you look at the size of the wings, if you're like me, most of the time you only see this on eBay auctions, and the eBay auctions only show you, just pictures to show it's not broken. They show you typically just this view right here. And it really doesn't do anything to give you any sense of scale. So hopefully you can see my hand. It shows you how big it is. None of the Walt Disney Classics collection pieces are huge, by the way, at least not compared to modern collectibles. But you have to remember that all of these pieces are porcelain, which is completely different ball game than run-of-the-mill, vinyl or polystone. So even like the so-called biggest classics collection pieces are, not that big. So just to get this out of the way, of the 1500 or so, I think they made another, maybe either 50 artist proofs or something like that. And this piece is one of the Walt Disney Classics collection pieces that's just notoriously, notorious. I was going to say notoriously infamous, but it just kind of, I guess, repeating words. It's notorious for breaking. And the reason for this is because the wings essentially just snap right off. It breaks here where it attaches to the back. It breaks in the middle. And I wouldn't be surprised if, like, let's say maybe 50% of these Night on Bald Mountains are now just, are broken. Now, some of them can be salvaged because usually the breaks are very clean. And when repaired by professionals, they can basically, recreate the Chernabog, and the break lines are invisible. There's very talented people who are very good at this to make it invisible. But in terms of like original intact Chernabogs, there's I wouldn't be surprised if like over, again, 40%, maybe even half, have been damaged. I think there were a few people on the Facebook Walt Disney Classics collection collecting forums. I mean, one poor guy, I think, bought 3 of them, and they were shipped to him, and all 3 were broken. And if you want to understand why that's the case, you have to sort of understand a little bit about sort of the way they designed, engineered it. These wings are just way too big, and they weigh quite a bit. And essentially, it created a situation where it can barely hold its own weight, even just being displayed. And so when you put it in its like very minimalistic foam protection, and there's really any type of jolt at all, then you're going to just crack the wings right off. And so it's almost like a miracle to have any one of these be shipped and not be broken because of that. The packaging itself actually breaks it. And so the only way to realistically ship it without breaking it is you actually have to take the entire Chernabog out of the original packaging. The original packaging is actually deadly. And then you have to, how do you even wrap this in bubble wrap? You might snap it. If you're not careful wrapping this, even the act of wrapping it in bubble wrap will break the wings off. So you have to be very, very careful. Maybe just buy an extra large box and you just sink him in the middle of a sea of peanuts or, basically soft, like soft foam, or something like that. And then you ship it that way and there's a chance. And they have to ship the box and the certificate of authenticity and the foam separately to get all of the packaging across. And very few people, of course, are going to be willing to do that. That's just not a thing, right? And so how I came to get this was you just have to be lucky. How a lot of people do it. And you just kind of stumble across a person who happened to get, a whole bunch of, Walt Disney Classics collection pieces, maybe from an estate sale. Remember that the WDCC collection is now over 20 years old, sometimes 30. And so sadly, a lot of the people who collected this back in the day, some of them have passed on, And so a lot of these collections are being, sold to auctioneers or dealers, estate sales, and, they sell them in large batches. And so for me, my story is that, a gentleman within driving distance managed to get a very large batch of pieces. This happened to be one of them. And, I made him an offer and I said, I'll come over and pick it up in person. I said, it'll break if you ship it anyways. And so I showed him in person, paid him cash, and I just took delivery in person. And this was in its original box, hadn't been opened since, I think it was since 1997, since it was bought 25 years ago. I don't think the person who bought it ever took it out of the box. It just been sitting there, and it was very, very dusty. Over, you can imagine, decades, some of the dust and foam had even kind of broken off and it stuck to the porcelain. But that's how I got it unbroken. And you almost have to get it in person to prevent that. A lot of the Walt Disney Classics collection pieces were engineered really nicely and, they made it fine. But some pieces just, you just can't. And this is one of those pieces. So you can imagine trying to get them is just ridiculously difficult because you not only have to, be willing to buy it, you have to find one where you can pick it up in person. And that's a really tall order. This is the same thing that you would have to do with, for instance, Ichabod Crane and the Headless Horseman because of the legs. Off to the Ball is another one where you absolutely have to try to pick it up. Night on Ball Mountain, another one of those. So there's a couple of those pieces out there where you really have to, hand deliver, hand pick up, which makes it a lot more difficult to get. So with this out of the way, let's just take a look at the piece itself. I've already been kind of moving it around. So take a look at the sort of the, the paint work. It's really interesting because I was so shocked when I found this and actually saw this like in hand. Because again, if you go by all the pictures, it just really feels like it's all black, like it's all one color. It feels very monochromatic. And when you see it in person, that's the farthest thing from the truth. It's so weird. When you take pictures, you assume all of this stuff is just natural shadows and whatnot. And it's not natural shadows. It's not like that. They actually painted it. And so if you want to look really carefully, this is actually blue paint on black. All of this stuff here, this is paint on the porcelain. All of this is painted on. It's not from the light. And when you see the same thing, all of this is painted. So I hope you can appreciate that the texturing are actually painted on. It's not from actually the light. You can actually see the yellow eyes glowing. You can see the fangs, and then the undersurface as well. One of the problems with this piece actually is that you really have to display it from from height in order for you to properly appreciate, trying to get a good grip. So as you can see, if you tilt it, you can again get to see some of the different painting where they actually painted the glow along the body and the other arm. You can see the painting, the glow of the cheeks and the eyes. All of this is actually painted on to give you that illusion. But if you just look at it head on, you can't really see it. You have to really go from below to see all of that. I love the actual pose. I mean, of course, this is the Walt Disney Classics collection, so the pose is going to be super accurate to, to the Fantasia animated motion picture. But you can see him just sort of pointing with his claws. That's also really, really fragile here. You can see all of these fingers can snap off very, very easily. So here he's bending it, so all of these things are intact. And you can see again the shading of the mountain. Again, from photos, it all looks like it's black. But here you can see the purplish, bluish tint. You can see how this is one color and then this is black, and they splotch it on. So it's just a very striking piece. Again, look at all of the different colors. You can actually see it. So again, not light. This is actually painted on. All of this stuff is painted on. So hopefully you can kind of get a feel for that. And then the most gorgeous thing, of course, are the wings, those huge, huge bat wings. And you can kind of see, again, the texturing. It's a different color from the top. It's more like bluish, and then purplish, and then black. So there's a lot that went into the painting of this piece. Again, I just thought, again, from photos, it was all one color. But when you actually own it and you see it, you see there's so much more to it than that. So it's actually pretty neat thing to see. They made another version of Night on Bald Mountain, sculpted by Ruben and Procopio, and they obviously learned from the mistake, because that one, number one, he's looking at you head on, and then number two, the wings are folded, so much less chance of breaking. But that's kind of, in my opinion, the lesser interpretation of this character. I mean, this is the one that, in my opinion, is still the best one, because again, it screams sort of that classic Walt Disney Classics collection aura, which is just like, super ambitious. One of the things I loved about the older WDCC pieces is that they were just fearless. They just went for it. They didn't care. There's like DGAF about, marketing and business, and is this going to work? Is it going to break? They just went for it. They didn't care. There were no limits. And sure, it came back in some pieces to hurt them, to bite them, in the butt, so to speak. But you have to give props for that. So I love this one so much more than the second version, which is basically a safer, more boring version of this. And if you have, Chernabog in full evil mode right here, with his hand outstretched, with those big wings just kind of billowing out, why would you need the other one with him just sort of standing there, So it's kind of like the lesser version of this magnificent piece. So that's it. I mean, Night on Bald Mountain, Chernabog. I hope you enjoyed this, because again, this is such a rare piece that I don't think there's any other review on YouTube to really show it. So for those of you who are, Walt Disney Classics collection collectors and aficionados, for many of you who don't own it, I hope that this is a nice opportunity for you to kind of appreciate it in real time, to get a feel for the size of it, get to see the striking paintwork on this piece. It's so unique, and that this is a nice opportunity to again see something like this, so-called in person, not really in person, but at least like you can see me feel it and touch it, get an idea of the size, and first time kind of moving around so that you can see a little bit of the space it takes up, its footprint, and not just a static picture, because I know it's been said so many times, but the static picture is so different from what the real thing is like. So there you go. Hope you enjoyed this review of Night on Bald Mountain. And until next time, do take care.